Well, Greeny, we're halfway through another baseball season, and we're really seeing some players who stand out as winners.
Kind of like business travelers who win at business by staying at La Quinta Inns and Suites.
That's because you can put your La Quinta Returns loyalty points to work on the spot with instant free nights.
Just drive up with no reservation and instantly redeem points for a free night that same night simply by using the La Quinta app.
It's like hitting a grand slam.
With an app instead of a bat.
Well played.
Prepare to win at business by learning more about instant free nights and check out the summer rates at lq.com.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Subscribe now by going to the Listen tab in the ESPN app.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Here we are. We are back and better than ever. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And we had football to watch last night with a couple of high-profile rookies getting their feet wet for two teams we think could be pretty good. Plus, we got the final major championship of the golf year on the tee this morning as well. And my favorite entertainment story of the year, bar none, was in my timeline when I woke up today. You are going to love it. Big fella, how are we doing?
Doing well. Got to watch a little football last night. Certainly got it started last week with the Cowboys and the Cardinals in the Hall of Fame game, a game I was part of so many years ago. Didn't play. I was hurt at that point, but got to see that whole venue and all. But here we go. A bunch more games tonight, a rare Wednesday night game. And it was fun to watch, and it was fun to have an eye on, as I talked a lot about yesterday, guys at the back of the roster. This was fun to watch guys at the top of the roster are hoping to be the top guys. And in Christian McCaffrey for Carolina, the running back, and Deshaun Watson, the quarterback for Houston. And while we're going to get into that, I quickly want to know, there was a great story last night, and I'm going to put this over the football. David Quisenberry.
Oh, yeah.
You see that story?
Of course.
David Quisenberry is an offensive tackle, and I remember watching him in the Senior Bowl in 2013, that year after that season, and I really liked him. I liked him. From San Jose State, wasn't from a big college, good-looking kid, good-sized kid. And he ended up from San Jose State, ended up going and had a good Senior Bowl, ended up going in the 6th round to the Houston Texans. That first year cost him because of a foot injury. But he didn't play the 3 years after that because he was battling cancer. For those 3 years, he missed his first year with a foot injury and the next 3 years battling cancer. And the Texans kept him around. They would waive him when he cleared waivers, bring him back, non-football injury list. Last night, he played.
Yep.
Last night was his first game in 4 years, the first time he was able to play football. He finished his chemo this past April, got involved in all the off-season activities, and this was the first time back on the field. His family surprised him in going there. He said he got pretty emotional when he saw that. The players had nothing but praise for this guy. And so, to me, I put that as the top of this, because whether he makes a team or not, we'll see. But for that battle and that fight and to be back on the field doing what he loves to do, but going through what he went through, and as he said, all of my teammates saw what I went through, from the chemo to losing my hair to losing weight to gaining it back, and the battle to get back on the field. To me, that's the best story of last night, that David got back on the field.
Yeah, no argument out of me. Some things are far more important than the football. There is plenty to get to.
Yes, there is.
With the football, though, we will in just a moment.
But
let's start off the top where the Dodgers win again. They beat the Diamondbacks. They win their 80th game in just 113 tries this season.
Yep, the quickest they've ever reached that mark in franchise history. How about this as well? This may be even more impressive. They trailed 2-1 in the game, and they won the game. So they moved to 34-33 in games they've trailed at any point. With a win percentage of .507 there, it's better than 18 teams have overall. The last team to finish with a winning record in games they trailed at any point was the 98 Yankees. They went 50-48. So they're doing it when they have the lead. They're coming back when they don't have the lead. They are just absolutely on fire.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Ryan Zimmerman drove in 5 last night in a 10-1 win over the Marlins, and he now, Golick, is the franchise all-time leader.
Broke a tie with Tim Wallach to take over sole possession of first place on the Nationals Expos all-time RBI list. Certainly going to continue to climb up the ranks. He's the leader for the Nationals and Expos in home runs and in RBIs and in doubles as well. He becomes one of 3 active players who is its franchise's all-time leader in home runs and RBIs. Evan Longoria with the Rays and Giancarlo Stanton with the Marlins. But, the Nationals and Expos franchise been around a little longer. They've existed for 49 years. Marlins and Rays, they've existed for a combined 45 years.
That's an interesting little stat there, to have the players that are the greatest in the categories in the history of their respective
Off the top.
franchise. All right, the golf begins today, the
There you go.
PGA Championship, and let's go Jordan Spieth. He has one chance and one chance only to become the youngest player ever to win the Triple Crown.
First, he would be the sixth men's golfer in history to win the to have a career Grand.
I said Triple Crown. You're right.
Yeah.
Grand Slam.
Grand Slam.
Grand
Career
Slam is what I meant
Grand
to say.
Slam that I can't even say at this point, which is obviously each of the majors at least once. He is 24 years old in just 17 days. The youngest now is Tiger Woods, who is a little over 24 and a half years old. So that's what he's shooting for right now. So shockingly enough, he's not the favorite. Rory McIlroy, who plays well at Quail Hollow, is
Correct.
the favorite in the 7-1. Jordan Spieth is 8-1. All the regulars, you think, the Dustin Johnsons, Ricky Fowlers, Jason Days are in that group as well. But it's Rory as the favorite, but Spieth looking to make that young history.
Right. Mickelson plays very well on this course as well. We'll talk to Andy North about it off the top of the next hour. But by the time they get to the next PGA,
He'll be older than
Spieth
Tiger.
will be older than Tiger. So this is his
it.
one shot to be the youngest ever.
Off the top.
To do it. Okay, Martavis Bryant is back, Mike. He's cleared to practice and play in the preseason. It's a conditional reinstatement, but you have to believe if everything goes well, he'll be on the field for the Steelers week 1.
Multiple drug violations, so he was out the whole year, was actually told to get off the practice field at the beginning of camp, couldn't practice with the team, but he's done everything the league has asked. So now, as Greeny said, the league has said, okay, you can practice in the preseason, you can play in the preseason games, you're not cleared to play in the regular season yet, but I agree with you. I'd imagine if he keeps going the way he's going, that he is going to be allowed. And let me tell you, that's a big weapon for them to get. They have Antonio Brown, we know that, but that would be a nice weapon for them to get back on the field if he can keep doing what he's doing.
Oh, absolutely. That you put him back in that mix, and they missed him last year with Antonio Brown, with Le'Veon Bell, with a healthy Ben, and that's always a question mark because of all the hits that he takes. But there's no reason to think they shouldn't be as good as any offense in the AFC.
Off the top.
And that brings us to the game last night. And let's pause on that thought here, make it off the top and what everybody's talking about. Brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day, because I want to get into this game. Because, as our buddy Mark Schlereth always said, these games don't count, but they matter.
Right.
And I know that you always watch, and for understandable reasons, you were a 10th-round draft pick.
Right.
You watch late in these games to see all these guys battling to make rosters. For most of us, what's really interesting are quarterback battles, and there are some of them around the league, and one of them is in Houston, where Tom Savage got the start last night and was pretty good, and then Deshaun Watson came in and I thought was very good, and that is going to be an interesting to watch all the way through the next month.
As I've said all along, I thought Deshaun Watson, I would have taken him as the first quarterback, not just because I think he could have played earliest, but I just trust him, and I would trust him going forward as well. First, Tom Savage, listen, 9 of 11, 69 yards. So, it wasn't whipping the ball down the field, but and he was certainly under pressure, especially early in the game. That O-line for the Texans struggled a little bit with protection, and he was dodging some bullets back there. But he certainly did fine. And then Deshaun Watson came in, and I tell you what, I love the way they started the game with him. Rollout. First play, little half rollout, basically no thinking involved. Get your feet wet. Move a little bit with your legs. If you get quick pressure, you can dump the ball. If not, usually you have one of those dragging receivers coming over the top. That's usually wide open, either mid-range or short. He hit the short receiver. Easy completion. No problem at all. So I really like the way they started that. Second play looked like a rookie. Second play was a seam route up the middle. He knew the safety was coming down to play, and he overthrew with a wide-open receiver. Third play, he did a nice job. The pocket collapsed around him. He rolled out to the right, hit a receiver. The receiver had stepped out of bounds and come back inbounds, so it was incomplete. But he was as advertised, and what I saw in college. He doesn't get rattled. He's smooth. He hung in the pocket even when it was collapsing a bit and waited to get out until he needed to get out. He didn't have antsy feet, had a nice touchdown run. We know he can move. So I ended up going 15 to 25, so that's 60% completion. The best thing about all of that, the absolute positive best thing is today. He has tape. He now has tape to watch. And there's all the little things that you don't see when you're watching the game on TV that he and the coaching staff will get to break down. What were you looking at? Why did you look here? Why did you throw here? You had an open guy. Why why overthrow? Was it the safety? Did you get spooked by him? What are the reasons that you did what you did? That's the great learning curve for him right now, is he now has tape to go over. I think that's one of the most important things.
Well, look, I have to believe that Bill O'Brien in his heart of hearts would love to see him win this job.
Yeah.
And if you look at the lack of quarterback consistency that the Texans have had under O'Brien, you know the stat. They've had 8 different starting quarterbacks under O'Brien, going back to only 2014, the most in the league in that time. And you would think that means, well, but they've been in the playoffs every year.
Yeah, they have.
I mean, they make the playoffs every single year, win a bad division every year without any stability at all at the quarterback position. If Watson wins this job, he'll be the 9th different starting quarterback in 3 seasons and 1 game. And yet, it feels like they've got a championship caliber team around him. So to try and do that around a rookie would be something else, but it might be their best bet.
And we'll see, because some of his throws were bad throws. Yeah. You know, he had the critical part of his game was sometimes that mid-range or longer pass, and some were flat out ugly. I mean, they just weren't near the receiver. So that's another thing you see on tape, so that he's going to see on tape, but that had kind of followed him from college. So there's certainly a lot of work to do. If you're going to sit here and ask me, did he win the starting job last night? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say you saw what you saw out of him. He can move. He doesn't get rattled. He can make plays, but he also has some inaccuracies as well that he has to work through.
Yeah, he's got 3 more weeks to try and win the job. I think he showed you the signs of what it is that make people excited about him. You saw all of that on display last night, and if he looked like a rookie, if he is a rookie playing in his first preseason game, it would make sense that he would look like a rookie.
Without a doubt. The interesting thing on the other side to me with Christian McCaffrey is he didn't have 1 catch. You know, this is a guy you keep talking about. How much was it over on the internet when he went one-on-one in practice against Luke Kuechly and caught it and juked him and all that? It was like, oh, my God, him out of the backfield catching the ball. He didn't have 1 catch last night. 7 carries, 33 yards, tucked in behind nicely. I'll show you a little bit later. Tucked in behind some lineman, does a nice job of that in between the lines going outside. He loves to have some moves to try and juke a little bit. But I think he also found out last night that some of those jukes don't work as well at this level. You know, you just have better athletes here, and some of the moves that sprung you loose in college aren't going to work here. But I thought he did a nice job. There were big questions about him. Can he go between the tackles if he has to? And he, as I said, he tucked in nicely behind some of his old linemen to get some yards. He's a good-looking kid, running the ball wide, having some moves, has the speed to turn the corner, and does have a good start and stop on him.
Look, we'll see what Carolina's going to be when Cam comes back, and that's – you know, I'm not sure exactly at what point you start to worry about that, but it feels like very soon will be the point where you start to worry about
Cam Newton and Andrew Luck.
Right.
I mean, 2 of you top quarterbacks, young quarterbacks in the league. These guys have shoulder issues, throwing shoulder issues at a young age. Yeah, you're absolutely right when you start to raise an eyebrow a little more.
Let's circle back, however, for the moment to what we saw from Deshaun Watson last night. Our friend Louis Riddick was watching closely.
Bill O'Brien, first of all, for Deshaun Watson, was calling plays right off the bat that you know he probably got with him before the game and said, look, these are things that you do well. Mm-hmm. These are things I know that you're comfortable with based on what you did in college. This is what you've looked good at so far in camp. We're going to get you hot right out of the gate. First thing they do, they move the pocket. Play action boot, get him out on the perimeter, let him run a little bit, let him concentrate on half the field. And that is what the thing that he really excelled at Clemson. Then when things broke down a few times, you saw very good pocket awareness. One of the things that you didn't see with RG3 as his career started to progress and then go downhill. Pocket awareness, something he really struggled with. Deshaun showed that tonight. When he had to operate from the pocket, he stood in there tall, stood in there strong, was not afraid of the rush, kept his eyes down the field, and put some balls on the money here, and especially at the end of that third quarter where they had like a 15-play drive that ended in his 15-yard scramble there for the touchdown. Tremendous poise. All the things that you saw coming out of Clemson that we all lauded him for, and all said this is what he is, he showed tonight, which is exactly how you wanted to start off.
Completely agree. I mean, because you want to see, you would expect a rookie their first time in the NFL, there's going to be some jitters. How do you handle the lights? And I completely agree, and I said it earlier, is they did a great job of putting him in position to be comfortable with his plays early on, knowing what he can do and putting him in position to do those things. As I said, some bad throws, and you work through that. Nobody is perfect, no doubt about it. But I do like the way, just as Lewis said, that he stood in the pocket when he needed to. He took some hits. He didn't bail right away. Those are the things outside of the stats you look for. You look for the big word is poise. Do they have happy feet? Especially a guy that can use his legs to do some damage, as you saw on the 15-yard touchdown run? Does he rely on it too much? Does he bail out if the pocket's collapsing too soon? And he hung in there. He took some hits to make some throws down the field. So to me, he was as advertised, both on the good side and where his deficiencies are as well. We saw that.
I think that it also is a testament to the value of a guy who has just played that much in college.
Completely agree.
He comes into the NFL so much more ready at least to do that than the other guys will. When you see Trubisky get thrown out there with his 13 games of experience, and if and when we see some of the other young guys in there, Mahomes and Kaiser and others, and we've seen it going back to Mark Sanchez, these guys who did not play a lot in college, it sounds obvious to say, but all experience matters, and so he's a lot more ready to go than a lot of these other guys probably will look in their first test. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. You can test drive Snapshot to see how much you could save before switching to Progressive. Visit progressive.com/snapshot. Tons and tons more football that we'll get to coming up shortly. But I find myself interested in this story. I find myself probably disproportionately interested in this Mayweather-McGregor fight. I'm almost embarrassed.
Well, you're going to buy it, so.
Well, a lot of people are going to buy it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're already thinking about it now. It doesn't mean that anytime anything flashes on their timeline about it, they immediately go to it. I find myself intrigued by this entire thing, in spite of myself, in spite of my understanding that it makes me a sucker and a boob. I am still incredibly interested. And here's an actual sports part of the story. They're fighting in the state of Nevada, and the Nevada State Athletic Commission will at least entertain the possibility of letting Mayweather and McGregor wear lighter boxing gloves in their highly anticipated fight later this month in Vegas. The executive director of the Athletic Commission confirmed to ESPN yesterday both fighters have submitted official requests to wear 8-ounce gloves for their fight on August 26th. Per Nevada regulations, any fight contested above the weight of 147 pounds, have to use 10-ounce gloves. Right. This one is going to be at 154. So they would have to wear 10-ounce gloves. They have both petitioned to want to wear lighter gloves. Here's a quote. Both camps have submitted a waiver by the date we requested. The commission will hear both camps' reasoning as to why it should deviate from its regulations. The chairman will then lead a conversation to blah, blah, blah. Arguments in favor of smaller gloves will have to be weighed against potential concerns regarding health and safety, which is the utmost importance to this commission. So what do you make of this?
Well, I make of it. First, I understand the rule. The lighter guys, you can use the smaller gloves. The bigger you get, the harder the punches. You don't want a smaller glove because you're talking about health, getting hit in the head an awful lot with a smaller glove. I'm sure McGregor, if I were him, I would have started out saying, all right, we'll do your sport of boxing, but use my gloves in MMA.
None.
Or none. He would have loved, I think they're 3 or 4 ounces, or 4 ounces in MMA. So I'm sure he would have loved that. So there's no doubt he would want a smaller glove to make you feel the punch more. And, as far as Mayweather, listen, I'm not a boxing aficionado to know to know all the ins and outs of this, but I do know, a glove 2 ounces heavier on each hand over 12 rounds, 2 ounces may not sound like a lot, but it's more you're holding up, for all that time. And I'm sure you'd like to feel the punch as well, even though Mayweather's not known as a knockout guy. He has talked about being more aggressive in this fight, and I'm sure he believes, because he's going against a guy who's not a professional boxer by trade, that he may have more openings, and he wants his punches to land and punches to feel. I'm just guessing at that. I completely understand it from McGregor's side of it, completely. I may need a little more of a professional in that sport to let me know why Mayweather would say, okay, yeah, I'll go smaller gloves as well. I'm just kind of guessing there.
I'm still picturing Apollo Creed in Rocky I, where he's not even paying attention, and his manager is saying he doesn't know it's a damn show. He thinks it's a damn fight. Everything that Mayweather does, I can't make up my mind whether it is actually for the competition or if it's just something he's trying to use to sell it.
To me, everything
Floyd
is to sell
doing
it.
This? Is Floyd saying he'll wear lighter gloves so that the world will say, ooh, I tell you what, one punch and you never know. I mean, this is a lighter glove than he's used to. One punch and you never know.
Yep.
And is he actually so confident that, as our friend Max Kellerman, who has forgotten more about boxing than I'll ever know, Max says, if Mayweather doesn't want McGregor to hit him once, he won't. No, I can't independently
That's
confirm
tough to believe, but hey,
that's what he says.
Right.
If it is indeed the case that Mayweather is so convinced of that he's not even the least bit worried about it,
and put on whatever
gloves you want.
During this 4-tour stop, Mayweather actually said he'd wear the 4-ounce gloves that I don't know, but that would be a smart move. But
Right.
he said he'd wear the 4-ounce gloves that they wear in MMA.
Yeah.
You know,
They said a lot of
remember
things
those,
during those.
if you see those gloves, the fingers are kind of open on that, and the 4-ounce padding on the gloves. Yeah, they did say a lot in those press tours to try and sell this thing. But, yeah, I mean, I can absolutely see it from McGregor's side, no doubt about it.
Do you think that they let? I can't believe I'm even asking this, but do you think they let them do it? I mean, this is like it's not. It's a boxing match, and so it's being officially sanctioned by this commission. But it's just a pure show.
Here's
let
the
them
thing.
do what they want, right?
I don't think the boxing commission's decision is going to weigh. It's not like, oh, are you 10-ounce gloves? Well, I'm not buying that fight. I don't think that's going to happen.
I agree.
So I don't know what they. I don't know. Will they? Because obviously, if you. And another thing I don't know, is this requested a lot? Is this something that's done a number of times? Do other fighters request the 8-ounce gloves over the 10-ounce when they're heavier? That I don't know. Because if it doesn't happen a lot, and that's something we can obviously find out, is it something that the Boxing Commission doesn't want to start doing? Because if they ask to do it, then other groups will do it. But maybe it is done a lot. Again, I don't know. Maybe it's done a lot and they turn it down a lot. Though that's part of the story that I don't really know.
I've just read through the rest of the story. There is no mention of whether this is something that is commonplace or not.
The best of Mike and Mike.
And the final major of the golf year, the 99th PGA Championship, begins today. First tee time's a little less than an hour from now in Charlotte. Jordan Spieth looking to become the youngest male golfer ever to complete the career Grand Slam. And as we mentioned, this is his only chance to do that because by next year's PGA, he'll be older than Tiger was when Tiger did it. SportsCenter with Mike and Mike, brought to you by Shell.
You deserve to be rewarded today with Instant Gold status. Now save on every fill every day at Shell when you join the Fuel Rewards program, a free loyalty program. Join now at fuelrewards.com/ESPN.
Who you got? You got Jordan? You got Rory? You got somebody else? Who you like?
Man, Dustin Johnson started off the year so well, and he just kind of...
And he fell down a flight of stairs at Augusta, and that was that.
That was the end of that. Yeah, you know what? Jordan's playing for that immortality. I mean, of a group we say that nobody can we don't think can match what Tiger did for that decade or so. Well, here's a guy that can have a better start as far as youngest to getting all the majors in. So I'd like to see that get done. I always like when new things are done like that. So we'll see.
I don't want them to add a fifth major. I know that they're moving the PGA Championship to May, and I understand the thinking behind that. That, I think, is really being driven more than anything else by a desire to grow their FedEx Cup.
Right.
The thing that they do at the end. I feel a need to explain that because I think a lot of casual fans don't even know that exists.
Yep.
But it's sort of their version of the chase. They tried to model it on NASCAR's chase for the championship, which has been such an enormous success for them. With golf, I think people focus so they're going to move that thing up into August so it doesn't compete with football, which in and of itself I think is a sensible thing to do. But I don't think it's going to make people excited about that.
No. I listen. You're different than me in golf. I'm more. I like it more than a casual fan, but I am not really interested in the FedEx Cup.
No, I'm not
it
especially
doesn't really
either.
do much for me at all.
Me neither. I'm not any more necessarily interested in those events than I am any others. I'll watch if it's on.
Right.
But I watch the majors much more so. It's the majors and the Ryder Cup are what most people really are into when it comes to golf. So the conversation has been, do they add a fifth major? Do they make the Players Championship a major? People have sort of called it the fifth major for a long time. Do they actually make it a major? And the concern with that is it throws all the records completely out of whack.
I don't know why you would do that.
Just to try and bring a little more. Otherwise, you're looking at a span now
longer span,
where your major championships are going to be played over a 3-month period.
Right.
And then you've got 9 months of the year where you don't have any of that. In a non-Ryder Cup year, people will just go away.
Right.
So that, I guess, is the concern. All right. Anyway, we'll talk to Andy North about it in a little bit. Some Twitter reaction, 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. A lot of people pointing out to us, Mike, including this one from James. Mayweather has fought at 147.
So he's used those gloves.
So he's accustomed to those gloves.
Yeah.
Throughout his career.
Good point. Yep.
So it would not be unusual for him. It might actually be more comfortable.
More comfortable is what he's used to doing, yeah.
For him. Bob tweets at us, the reason he doesn't care about the size of the gloves is because he's not going to get hit. Don't you understand that?
Okay, Bob, thanks. Thanks, champ.
Is he not going to get hit at all?
No, that's ridiculous. To me, that's a ridiculous statement to say he will not get hit one time. Now, what maybe your definition of a hit hard, a jarring hit, whatever your definition, to think that not – I mean – I know that McGregor is not a professional boxer, but he boxes as part of what he does. So to think he is not going to land a punch, to me, is ridiculous. I do think he's going to land a few punches in this thing.
We'll see one way or another. And then some Twitter reaction to Deshaun Watson's performance last night. CMH tweets at us, Deshaun still has some things to work on, but he's better than Savage. Big Mike tweets at us, could Deshaun be the steal of the draft? He was a mid-first-round pick, but I guess you could still call him that considering all the guys that went ahead of him.
It's certainly possible. You know, wasn't the first quarterback pick, but
wasn't even the second.
A steal in the middle of the first round is tough to say. You know, a first round, there's still expectations. It's just a matter of when you realize those expectations. So I don't know if I would go that far to it. And I don't know if I'm going to sit there and say, right now insert him in there and he will lead the team better than Tom Savage. Because you give it a little more time. I'm not making the decision after one game last night.
All right, meanwhile, the Denver Broncos are the team that I was referring to in my tease as a team with Super Bowl aspirations that may be trying to trade for a quarterback. Now, the quarterbacks on their roster include Trevor Siemian, who started 14 games for them last year, Paxton Lynch, who started 2, and then a couple of other rookies, including Chad Kelly, who's a well-known name, but of whom not much is expected, certainly not this year. So there was a report that the Broncos were aggressively pursuing a trade for A.J. McCarron, who is the highly thought-of backup in Cincinnati. The team, through sources, has strongly denied that report, and as the story that I'm reading here says, as they should, even if it's true. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But I guess the point is, if you're Denver, if you're John Elway, and you don't have confidence, I don't know if that necessarily means you're admitting a mistake with Paxton Lynch, or just that everyone said when he was drafted it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
So maybe 1 year is not long enough. Now, John Elway himself tweeted, rumor of us being interested in anyone other than the quarterbacks we have is another example of irresponsible fake news, which is the sentence du jour.
The go-to line.
But let's see. One way or another, what do you make of it?
Here's the deal. If in fact it is true and you're looking at trading for an A.J. McCarron, who's a young quarterback, I think I think you have to look at it and say, was Paxton Lynch the right move to make? Was that the guy? I'll keep repeating, though, you don't draft a guy, even in the first round, at quarterback, to be a star his first year. In this case, his second year. You want them for the next decade. But at some point, do you need to start seeing a return? If it's not even the first round, you even go in the second round with like a Christian Hackenberg with the Jets. You're like, okay, you didn't take him in the first, but you took him in the second.
Sure.
Let's start to see what we got here. You can't the old 3 to 5 year waiting period. That it doesn't happen. It's a joke anymore. You got to either get going right away during that first year, or if not, by that second year, you got to have a little more command at what's going on. I certainly had my thoughts and worries about Paxton Lynch, and I said him when that draft was going on. I would not have taken him in the first round, but we'll see. But if you trade for a young quarterback, you're not trading, for McCarron like you are for Jay Cutler for. Fill in this year, come in, know the system, and we'll go from there. With A.J. McCarron, you might be saying, well, this could be our guy. And if that's your guy, that means your first-round pick isn't your guy. So that would be saying, we may have missed on this one.
Or you may be saying, I've got a Super Bowl caliber defense, and I just need someone
right now
who can do a little better than what we have here. We'll see. Okay, so that's one. Again, John Elway's calling it fake news. Let's see what winds up happening. Elsewhere, and another quarterback note, there was a story earlier this week that I think the most important piece of it was overlooked, and that is we saw an interview in which Johnny Manziel said that he's considering coming back, or that he would be interested in coming back as a coach, coming back and coaching,
college coach,
probably on the college level. And unspoken in that, I guess, is all these quarterback conversations, all these openings, all these teams, all the discussion about Miami needing a quarterback and where will Colin Kaepernick go and this team and all that, his name doesn't even come up.
No.
Never. Never even mentioned for a second. And so that leads to the question, is it over? Is it just done? Is the notion of him coming back and playing in the NFL over, which wouldn't surprise me? And if it is, do we have to start talking about one of the great busts of all time for a guy to win the Heisman, to be as highly touted as he was, to be a first-round pick and start only 8 games in the whole history of the NFL in quarterbacks, I should say, drafted from 1990 through the present time? There were only 3 quarterbacks drafted in the first round who started fewer games than Manziel. Jim Druckenmiller only started 1.
Right.
Dan McGuire started 5. Andre Ware started 6. Todd Marinovich and Johnny Manziel started 8. By comparison, Jamarcus Russell started 25.
Yeah.
Now, he was the first pick in the draft.
We'll go down.
Johnny was
one of the biggest
22nd.
busts. Yeah.
But here's a guy who came in with as much hype, forgetting where he was drafted, but he was a first-round pick, and as much hype as anybody. His jersey was outselling Tim Tebow's jerseys, and he's going to wind up starting 8 games and go away and never be heard from again.
Well, listen, it would not surprise me because much like when Tim Tebow went in the first round and Johnny and Manziel went in the first round, I couldn't believe it, as a lot of people couldn't. But it only takes one team to make the move. But there were a lot of people that thought neither one of those guys should be first-round picks anyway. They were, in fact, not first rounders, but later in the draft picks to me. So them going in the first round was ridiculous, and it kind of bared itself out there. In all honesty, now Tim Tebow was dealing with the fact that he was struggling at that position, no doubt about it. And that was been the main thing. And we know what followed wherever Tim Tebow went. But he struggled at the position. And for Johnny Manziel, he struggled at the position, and he's got all the offseason off the field issues going on as well. If these guys wanted to play in the NFL, they're in a position you need to show something, okay? Because they didn't. They both showed they struggled passing the ball. So you're in a position, in my mind, you want to play. I mean, Tim Tebow didn't want to change positions, certainly his right, to the point now where he's in baseball. But people were saying it about him, and people say it about Manziel. You want to show you could pass, go play in Canada, where they throw the ball all the time. Go play there. I know there's a 2-year thing there, but see what you can work around. But a 2-year, show you can throw the ball. You showed for Johnny Manziel, you showed you don't throw it very well. You show you have issues. Go be somewhere where you can prove you throw the ball and don't have any issues. But he hasn't, so who's taking a chance? Who's looking at him and saying, yeah, last we saw of him wasn't a whole lot, and he's not shown me anything. Okay, he's showing some video of him working out in the sand somewhere. That's not going to make me sign him. Now, a team could do that, and because it's no great loss if you end up cutting him. You're not like you're costing you a lot of money. But again, is he worth bringing what comes to town with him, even if it's for a short time? I don't know why. If these guys truly want to say, you know what, I can play quarterback in the NFL. Right now, nobody thinks I can play in the NFL. If you really want to, go throw in Canada. Bigger field, whip the ball all over the place. Go show you can throw. And I bet you'd have a job in the NFL, or at least a shot to have a job in the NFL if you go prove you can throw the ball. I wonder how many quarterbacks, I don't know if this is something that could be looked up quickly or not, have been drafted in the first round and been completely out of the league this fast. It's 3 years, 3 seasons. And he's out of the league, and his name didn't even come up. No, I mean, not at all. Not even all the it didn't even occur to me. No, like until his name came up in connection with the coaching, I didn't even think of him. Right. And then now all of a sudden, I said, wait a minute, he's a coach now? I thought, what happened to him trying to be a quarterback? It seems like everyone has just given up on that very notion. Hey, everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
All right, we got a lot of football still to get to this morning, and we will. Brian Billick will join us, Damian Woody, Michael Irvin, all that and a whole lot more. Some more Twitter reaction as we turn back to some of the sports topics of the day. Phil Ross tweets that the Tiger effect had a lot to do with him being a minority. To have the same effect in golf, we'd need another minority superstar. There was way more that went into it outside of just being the most dominant golfer in a period of time that we've seen, without question. It was, to use an overused phrase, the perfect storm of circumstances. So, correct. There will not be that. Even another player, if Jordan Spieth were to win at the rate that Tiger won, and I don't think we're going to see anyone win at that rate, those guys come along maybe once every 30 years or so. Even if Spieth or anyone currently on the tour were to win at that rate, they wouldn't have the impact on the sport.
No,
that
they
Tiger
would not.
did.
No.
I agree with that. What else have we got here? Dave, because the Browns bought into that hype doesn't mean that Manziel was worthy of being a first-round pick, unlike Ryan Leaf. Listen, Dave, I don't know what to tell you.
Dave, you're completely wrong. The Browns felt he was a number one pick. The Browns felt his play on the field. The Browns didn't draft him in the first round because of him being a good guy that went out and had fun and won a Heisman. They broke him down as a football player and felt he was a first-round pick, and it was a bad pick. They felt he was worthy of a number one pick. That's all it takes is one person. It was the same way, with other quarterbacks that we've talked about failing in the first round. Those teams felt they were first-round caliber players.
And they weren't the only ones. He was going to go in the first round. I remember that it was a surprise that he lasted as long as he did in that draft that year. Okay, let's go around the world of sports with Over Under. It's brought to you by La Quinta. Book at LQ.com and win at business. Our staff has put together some over-unders for us here. Let's see which way we go. On touchdown passes that Jay Cutler will throw this year, they have placed the over-under at 21. And that, by the way, is the number of touchdowns he threw his last year with Adam Gase as his offensive coordinator in Chicago in 2015. So, touchdown passes, Jay Cutler this year, 21 over-under.
I think I'll go over. I think he has better cast around him. So, I do think we'll see what kind of protection he gets from the line. I think Tannehill was sacked 29 times last year, and the last time Cutler played a full season, I think it was right around the same number. So I'm going to say the same thing. I like his weapons, and I think it'll be over that.
The big question there is staying healthy.
Sure.
That's the one that would worry me the most. So I guess if I had to bet on it, I will bet that he will, and so I also would go over. How about the number of interceptions? He threw 11 that year with Adam Gase, so the over-under on Jay Cutler picks this year is 11.
I think he goes over that as well. I do think so because I think, remember the last time he started, he was 6-9 as a starter. I do think this team will be fighting for a playoff spot. Not the division.
He's going to hand that ball to Jay Ajayi a lot.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. But he's also going to have to make some plays throwing the ball for a team that's going to be in it a lot longer, I believe, than his team in Chicago when he had this year. So I believe that will relate to more turnovers.
I'll say this. I don't think anyone has ever gone broke betting on Jay Cutler throwing picks. So no. I'll go over as well. Next over-under is 116.5. That's the number of wins the Dodgers finished with this season. The record is the 2001 Mariners, who won 116. Right now, they're on pace to win 114.5 games. Paul, how are they on pace to win 114.5 games? Because they played an odd number of games that it adds up to that.
They're 80-33, right? They're 80-33, so it's 113 games, so they have 49 more to go, right?
Okay.
49 more to go, so they need 37 wins to get 117.
I'll buy that.
Well, 80-37 is 117.
Okay,
that's not difficult.
Are they going to break the record or not?
No, they're not. They're not going to break.
They're so far ahead that they won't have to play, late in the season, and so I agree they will not.
So they need
an unbelievable season.
They need to win 37 of their last 49 games to do it.
I'm going to go under as well. You lost me with some of that, but I'm going to go under. You lost
Did I
me
make
in the
it
numbers.
easier? They have 49 games to go. They need to win 37 of them to break the record.
Here's what I'm going to say. For them to go over, they'd have to win 117 games, which has never been done in the history of the sport. I'm going to take the under.
Okay.
Let's leave it at that. Next, over-under at -12, the final score for the winner of the PGA Championship this year. Since 2000, the average winning score to par is basically 11 under. By far the lowest of any of the major championships. Will the winner be 12 under or no?
Not going to lie, I don't know a lot about this course. If it's difficult or not.
No, it's not difficult.
Then I want it to be under, but it's going to be over.
I don't know if that would be considered under or over.
You know what I mean? It's going to be a better score.
Correct.
Then yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Next, over-under on the number of wide receivers that will go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame next year at 1.5. Remember, Randy Moss is a first-time eligible next year. Terrell Owens is inexplicably still not in. So will they both get in next year, over under 1.5?
I'll go under. Say 1.
Me too. Paul, I hate to ask you this, but what's the last time 2 receivers went in the same year?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's happened. There's probably one recently that I'm just not remembering. But it's hard to get those guys in.
Yeah, it is. I think it'll just be 1.
Yeah, remember how long it took him to get in and a lot of these other guys. Which one will it be? Will they put Moss in his first year and jump him over T.O.?
I think they'll put Moss in.
Was he a markedly better player than T.O.?
Listen, I don't want to say markedly. I think he was a better player than T.O. I would take him, but that's like splitting hairs. But I absolutely positive now. And it's also like Randy Moss didn't have a few issues himself, but I absolutely think these voters are really holding a whole lot against T.O.
I agree. I'll go under. All right, last one. Over-under on the number of total points the Jets will score this season. The over-under is 140. That is the record for the fewest. The 1992 Seahawks scored the fewest points in a 16-game season with 140. Will the Jets break that record, over-under?
Under 140, sorry.
Under 140? Yeah. I'm actually going to say over because I think that Seahawks team had a great defense, so they were playing in close games. I think that the Jets are going to be in so many garbage time games, they'll score garbage time points. They'll go over 140, but not by much. Not by much.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Here we are, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests, like Brian Billick on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Sign. He'll join us in just a couple of minutes. Deshaun Watson in action last night. Those with us on ESPN2 just saw Golick did a great breakdown of what we saw from Watson. Again, I was very impressed.
Yep.
We'll see what Brian Billick thought of him. But
yeah, again, missed some throws, but he did exactly what I thought he would do. He showed poise in the pocket. He has a ton of experience in big games. Missed some open receivers, and that's something he needs to work on. But the main thing was he throwing to the right receiver? That's what they'll go over and tape. If you make a bad throw, that's something you work on. Were you throwing the ball to the right guy? Did you not stare down the guy you were throwing to? These are all the little things that he's now going to go over and film that is going to be gold for him.
All right, so we'll see. That's an interesting quarterback battle. There were a few of them around the league. Maybe none of them more interesting than that one when you consider the Texans are a Super Bowl caliber team
right. Yeah.
if they get representative quarterback play. Mm-hmm. Again, if he starts week one, he'll be the 9th quarterback to start under Bill O'Brien, and O'Brien only got there in 2014. It's the most of any team in the league, and they're a perennial playoff team. So to have that kind of instability at that position and keep winning, pretty unusual in the NFL. So we'll talk about that with Brian. Meantime, I've been trying to get to this Charles Barkley sound all day long, so let's get it in here. Charles Barkley on NBA TV reacting to all of the rumors, and not really rumors at this point, the reports of Kyrie Irving wanting to be traded away from Cleveland and the belief that maybe it's because he doesn't want to play under the shadow of LeBron James anymore. Here were the thoughts of Charles Barkley.
You want to be on a good team. You want to play with other great players. This notion where you want to be the man, I just think it's so stupid. Like, if I got a chance to play with another great player, I want to do that. I mean, you know, the objective is to win. When you're on a bad team, when he was on a bad team and he was the man, I guarantee you that wasn't a lot of fun for him. And now you want to lead the best player in the world. You know, and listen, you know, I hear all this stuff about LeBron cast a big shadow. He should cast a big shadow.
What's interesting here is I remember Charles had some issues, if I remember correctly, with Durant leaving Oklahoma City, right, and going to to Golden
State. Sure.
So just in a vacuum, so you have a guy who everybody said, "Oh, stay there and do it. Stay there and be the man and beat the best." And he went to join others. Now you have a guy in Cleveland who says, "I want to go be the man somewhere," exactly what we wanted Durant to do, and he's getting criticized for that. Now, the difference is that Durant had Westbrook and they had Golden State down 3-1. So they were there. I mean, and a lot of people thought maybe if Durant stayed, maybe they could have taken him this year. And we saw the team that Kyrie Irving had without LeBron James. Yeah. They were dreck. And thinking if he's going to go somewhere and be the man with no other stars around him, that team's not going to be very good either. So it's interesting because this is now the other side of the coin.
Here's what this to me would be more like if when Kevin Durant went to Golden State, Steph Curry went in and said, "I want to be traded." Yeah. That's kind of like what this would be. I'm supposed to be the man here. Now you got another guy who's the man. My personal opinion is that this has, and look, it's not like Kyrie called me the other day and we had this conversation, but I think this could be about a lot less about being the man than it is about looking at the future of that team and not liking it. Like, did you see this thing where LeBron this week set the internet on fire he tweeted that he wanted to come out and play some hoops with people, and he made some reference to, well, when I'm back home in L.A., we'll play. And the whole world went crazy.
Yep.
LeBron James is referring to L.A. as back home. Isn't Cleveland home? This must mean he's going to Los Angeles. We're reading into everything that he's saying. I think that Kyrie Irving is saying, I got one more year of LeBron here, and then he's going to be gone. And there is instability in the organization. I don't have a lot of confidence in the front office. They fire the general manager every 2-3 years here. Yeah. And if I wait until next year, they'll never let me go.
Well, that's the thing. So I agree with you there. If he's looking in that crystal ball saying, I'm not going to be able to get out of here. If I don't go now, I'm not going to be able to get out of here. And this team is going to revert back to with the instability to something that's not very good. So I may want to get out. I see what he's saying there, because just at face value, you say, well, wait a minute, you can get another year, go to the finals, and you never know what can happen. But he's looking past that year.
That's what
well.
I think.
Yeah.
And maybe he's, so it's easy for us to sit here and say, look, just play one more year with LeBron, right, try and win a championship. But maybe he's looking at it and saying, we can't win.
Yeah, and plus, and if then that traps me here and this team really falls off the table, then what?
That's what I think it's about. Because it's not like Kyrie doesn't have an enormous brand. His brand is ridiculous. That's the word now.
Yes, it is.
His brand is ridiculously successful. His shoes sell like crazy. He is a megastar globally. He's the real deal. Yes, LeBron is the biggest star on his team, but Kyrie is still, I would say, comfortably one of the, 10 biggest stars in the NBA? Would you say higher than that? Would he be one of the
branding-wise?
6 or 7? Yeah. I mean, how many? I don't even know exactly how we're quantifying
He's up there with
this.
the shoe sales and all that.
That's what I mean.
You throw all that into the equation, yeah.
So it's not like his brand is suffering for playing with LeBron.
No, that's very true.
The best thing that you can do with your brand is be playing in the biggest games of the year.
Right.
So when you're playing in the NBA Finals, that's 20 million people are watching each of these games.
Yeah, but if you're winning 30 games a year, then not so much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I find it all very curious. That's why I think. Again, this is just guessing. I'm not a reporter. I'm not an insider. I'm listening to what all these other people closer to it are saying and trying to judge from the outside. It would make more sense to me that he is looking at this thing and saying, I got to get out of here because it's about to become – we're a year away from becoming the worst team in the NBA and I'll be stuck here. So let me try and get out while the getting is good and get to a place where we can build something the next this, whatever it is. And Minnesota would be that. San Antonio, everyone wants to play with Pop, play for Pop, and play with Kawhi Leonard. They'd be very good. So some of the places that we've heard he's interested in going make a lot of sense.
And because we do a show and we want a little bit of drama, I hope Cleveland says, we're not trading you, man. We're going back to the finals with you. Let's all be professional about this and see what happens.
I have to believe – because we asked Stephen A. when he was on with us yesterday, that Stephen A. said they basically have no choice but to trade him.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what you get back.
Right.
I wouldn't trade – if I'm Dan Gilbert, I don't trade him.
I wouldn't give him away for a song
for what
and a dance.
Paul George, netted for Indiana.
Agreed.
I mean, no way.
Agreed.
If you get a really, really good package, if you get a treasure trove of picks and young players or something like that, you want to build for the future – okay, now we can talk, but I'm not just getting rid of them to avoid an uncomfortable situation.
I agree with that.
All right, we'll see what winds up happening there. I just thought it was interesting to hear what Barkley had to say. Meanwhile, Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance, and now it is the football season.
Yes, it is.
Because we are pleased to welcome back on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line from the NFL Network, our friend Brian Billick. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, every year you just kind of take me out of the box and dust me off and crank it up again, and we got football.
Here we go. Football, indeed, we have. And we were watching last night the first NFL action for Deshaun Watson, who's a highly touted rookie on a really good team. And will he win that job? And Mike did a really nice breakdown of his performance. Did you get a chance to see it? What did you make of Watson last night?
Got a peek of it. And when you look at, after the draft, we were all handicapping who was going to have the best opportunity to succeed in the first year. You look at Mitch Trubisky in Chicago and all the issues going on in Chicago, you got to know it's probably going to be a tough year. But with Deshaun Watson, with the team he's with, the way they play defense, you're not going to draw any real conclusions from the preseason. But this young man certainly has the physical abilities to extend plays, and we saw it to extend plays outside the design of the offense. He'll evolve as a quarterback. He's certainly in the right situation to be the most successful in any of the quarterbacks taken in the first round.
So, as one of the things I said was the most important thing out of last night is he now has some game tape to be looked at and corrected. So take us into that film room today with the O coordinator, the quarterback coach, whoever it's going to be, sitting down with the rookie and what you're looking at and what you're looking for him to learn.
Well, again, he's going to make plays outside the pocket. In the pocket, you really, the real progression, and it's not going to happen all in just 1 year or just one preseason game, but recognize those things that, okay, how are you operating in the pocket? Are you setting your feet right? Are you moving and climbing the pocket properly? Are you giving yourself a chance to getting the ball thrown unobstructed? Are you holding it too long? That's the biggest thing for a rookie in the pocket, to believe what you see and to get to that point where you can anticipate a little bit. Now, we're a long way from that, but that's what every session you're going to sit and go with him. Now, what did you see? And why did it take so long for you to pull the trigger? Because obviously the holes and the windows to throw the ball into are much tighter in the NFL. So he's going to have to trust his instincts, trust what he sees, where in college he may see that same window and going, I'm not throwing it there, that's a little too tight. He's going to get used to having the confidence to throwing it. The more he sees that, and it can only happen in the games, but if you can reiterate as you're in a film session with him to verify, okay, yeah, see, you did see this. This did go along the timing we've practiced. Go ahead and put the ball in this situation. Certainly any mistakes, are probably as more valuable than anything that you're going to do, to say, okay, why did this happen? Was it bad feet? Did you rush the throw? Did you change your throwing action? Did you force the ball into a situation? So your failures are almost more instructive than your successes.
All right, so there's his first action last night. We got 7 more games on the schedule tonight. We'll see when we start to see some of these other young quarterbacks. Then there's a not-so-young quarterback. The Dolphins go to the broadcasting ranks to bring Jay Cutler out of retirement in a situation where they desperately needed someone, and he's got the relationship with the head coach. What did you think of that move, and what are your expectations?
Well, it made sense because of the familiarity with the player, the familiarity with the system. So yes, and Jay Cutler, notwithstanding how Ryan Tannehill will come back or how he will come back, there's still questions about his ability to be that top level quarterback. Jay Cutler, we've seen signs of that, and certainly his familiarity. Now it's going to take a little while, obviously, to get into the groove. You spent an entire off season not getting ready for a season. It's hard to rush it back in. We know what we've seen out of I always say Jay Cutler reminds me a little bit of Jeff George, which is a tough analogy. I know in some people's mind, the eye-popping ability, but sometimes it's like, well, where did that one come from? He's got that ability, and he's going to be surrounded by a pretty good football team with a system he's very familiar with. It certainly makes, obvious sense for Adam Gase to go back to a Jay Cutler compared to some of the other options.
Ryan Tannehill, after this year, they can get out from under that contract without losing anything. He's played 5 years, 4 of those years, 16 games. Last year, 13 games. Brian, have you seen enough of Ryan Tannehill for you to make a decision on whether he'll quarterback your team or not?
Wow, no. For me, he really needed this year to validate. We've certainly seen the progress, and when I go back to Ryan Tannehill, people think I didn't like Tannehill and I killed him in the draft. No, I just thought he was taken too high. We were at a year where a lot of players got pulled up into that early part of the first round, whether it was a Christian Ponder, Jake Locker, Ryan Tannehill was in that group. I think all those guys in a regular draft might have been early second-round picks, which would have been a safer place for them. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think they're good players, but I had questions about them being drafted, in this case, being that high. I didn't see, obviously, we didn't have a lot of tape to go on because it was basically a one-year starter. So we have seen a slowly progression of him getting better. And he's with the quarterback, Chris Spurrier and Adam Gase. They finished the season very strong. So this was going to be a really important season for him to follow up to say, yes, I've got it. Yes, I've arrived. Yes, I'm a guy that deserves one of these $100 million contracts.
Mike and Mike, Brian Billick is with us. And then there's Tom Brady, who is still performing at an elite level. He's won 2 of the last 3 championships as the best player on his team and turns 40 years old. So he's going to try and do stuff that has genuinely never been done before. No 40-year-old quarterback has ever started a Super Bowl. Almost no 40-year-old quarterback has ever started a playoff game. So few of them have been the primary starter throughout an entire NFL season. I guess if anyone can do it, Tom Brady can do it. What are your expectations for him, for how long he can keep this thing going?
to try to guess when Tom Brady, and as we all say, Father Time's undefeated, there's going to come a point where obviously he can't do it, or at least do it at the level that he expects to do it, which for Tom Brady, the perfectionist he is, I imagine Tom Brady will know when he's done and ready to step aside before any of us do. But you're chasing fool's goal if you think you're going to get ahead of the curve and say, oh, yeah, I think this is the year Tom Brady's going to fall off. Just because there's an arbitrary number out there at 40, well, of course, he can't perform at the same level. I'm not going to make that call on a Tom Brady because of the way he trains, the way he operates, the way he protects himself. Like I said, I think he's going to know before any of us see it, to the point where we're going, oh, I don't know. The hard thing will be that every throw, if he has a game, and a quarterback can just have a bad game for any number of reasons. Now, all of a sudden, we okay, here we go. Now, look, he doesn't have the same velocity. Look, he can't get out of the way the same way. That's the thing that's going to, and I know he's going to obviously tire of it. So I'd ask Bill Belichick about it, because he'll have a lot of patience for those kind of questions. When we all begin to, when we think we see something that really isn't there, and now we're going to decide, no, Tom Brady can't play anymore.
Having said that, they go into this season as prohibitive a favorite as I can ever remember an NFL team being. It's almost like they're the Golden State Warriors of football. Do you view them that way? Do you view the league right now as New England and then, to some degree, everybody else?
Oh yeah, and when everybody's asking about it, it's Tiger-esque, in terms of it's New England versus the field, and I think Vegas will support that perception. It's like last year. I got in a little bit of trouble last year when everybody said, well, you predicted that Cleveland Browns would go 0-16. Of course, I was totally off. They went 1-15, but I didn't. I said, look, I would never predict a team to go 16-0 or 0-16. I have too much respect for the league and the teams in the league to do that. But last year I made the observation about Cleveland. What I don't see is I don't see a win here. And that's where my basic prediction was, the struggles for Cleveland. With New England on the flip side of it, I won't say I don't see a loss here, but I don't know that they're not going to be favored in every game going down the way. I don't have their schedule right in front of me, but I know they've got a tough stint there where they travel. It's either Denver or Oakland or Pittsburgh, somewhere in there. Forget the home games. You just mark those off as wins. How are you going to bet against Tom Brady and New England at home? So you look at the road games when they're played, notwithstanding injury, of course, and you can make a case. I'm not sure. Am I willing to bet right now on any one of these games that New England's not going to win? So does that mean you think you're going to go 16-0? No. And there's some stumbling blocks there. But, boy, they might be darn close to it, because I think this is scary. They may be a better team now than they were the team that won the Super Bowl last year.
They are at New Orleans in September. They are at Tampa and the Jets in October. They're at Denver on Sunday, November 12th. They're at Buffalo in December. So those are some road games. At Pittsburgh, Sunday, December 17th. So there were a couple of games in there, but they will be the favorite.
Did you really say at the Jets?
I'm just looking at the road. I'm just reading off the road games. It's on the schedule.
You could have skipped that one because it's a given. You could have done that.
Are the Jets this year, Brian? Are they as bad as the Browns were last year? Are the Jets this year's Browns?
No, I heard the same way you did, Mike. That's Greeny predicting that the Jets will upset the New England Patriots. We have it on tape.
Oh, jeez.
It's a fact. No, the Jets are interesting in the sense that, it's kind of hard to see where their wins are going to come from. You talk about a team now, there's some things, obviously, again, like the Cleveland example. I'm not going to say they're going to go 0-16, but you go down the schedule, where they are right now. I mean, the way I always look at it, for instance, offensively, okay, if I'm going to play the Jets, and I'm a defensive coordinator, I need to stop what? Do the Belichickian, we're going to stop what you do best. Okay, I'm going to stop in order to beat the Jets, I need to stop there. And you fill in the blank.
There is no answer there. I mean, if Matt Forte is the only guy in the offense that anyone in America has ever heard of.
Right.
So the answer is there is no answer.
Let me just get you out of this misery, Eric Greeny. Brian, not only NFL starting, but obviously college, high school, youth football as well. And one of the things we talk about is better equipment for these players, and I know you have some available, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. You know, we got to take the head out of the game at every level, and we keep talking about it, doing everything we can. That's the right thing to do, which puts a priority on shoulder pads, and which haven't changed in 40 years until now. X-Tech pads is the next iteration of shoulder pads from the pro level. We got 28 teams in the NFL using them, over 300 colleges, over 150 high schools. Particularly with the young high school players, you need to put your players in these pads because it's got the XRD technology. Bob Broderick has done an unbelievable job, and Teddy Monica, former with the Giants, the equipment manager, they put together just the next level of protection for our players with the X-Tech pads. You can go to xtechpads.org and find out all about it.
Well, Greeny, we're halfway through another baseball season, and we're really seeing some players who stand out as winners.
Kind of like business travelers who win at business by staying at La Quinta Inns and Suites.
That's because you can put your La Quinta Returns loyalty points to work on the spot with instant free nights.
Just drive up with no reservation and instantly redeem points for a free night that same night simply by using the La Quinta app.
It's like hitting a grand slam.
With an app instead of a bat.
Well played.
Prepare to win at business by learning more about instant free nights and check out the summer rates at lq.com. Boy, we are busy this morning. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. They'll include the Hall of Famer Michael Irvin a little later in this hour. They're on the course at Quail Hollow as we speak, playing the season's final major championship. Spieth is playing now. Don't bother calling me later this afternoon. I'll be parked in front of a television screening calls.
It's a good thing I wasn't going to call you.
I know you wanted to chat, and we got things to catch up on, this afternoon, but
no, we don't.
I will be otherwise occupied. And it is our delight to welcome into our studio our friend Damian Woody, who's here to talk some football and more. How are you, D. Wood?
Good morning. Good morning. I was loving that little segment you did on Christian McCaffrey. Those guys pulling. Big guys throwing people out of the club, as I like to say.
I knew you'd like that.
Oh,
some good blocking on that O-line, which will be interesting with the Khalil brothers now. Matt Khalil, who they brought in left tackle, a little shaky in Minnesota. So it's going to be interesting at the left tackle position out there of how that works out.
There was one play that you showed, and again, for those of you with us on radio, Mike broke it all down on ESPN2, where Christian McCaffrey got kind of low, and from the oncoming angle that you were able to show, you can't see him. I mean, you physically can't see him. He's ducked down behind a couple of linemen.
Yeah, it was a backside guard and a tight end that were pulling through, and he just got down low. The lineman did a nice job of sealing. The tight end just ran through, and he just stayed right behind him. It's a nice job of just knowing where you are and not bouncing out of that. Just trust what's in front of you. It's a good job of blocking by the O-line and just follow it through.
But you were a defender. Now, again, you were basically on the line of scrimmage. But for the guys who were coming up to make a play, the linebackers and the guys from the secondary, if this may sound like a ridiculously obvious question, but if they can't see him, I have to believe that makes a big difference, right? I mean, he's kind of ducked himself down low there, and it's a good little strategy.
It does. You know where he is, and you just
know exactly where. That's I guess what I'm asking.
Well,
do you know exactly where he is?
You see where he is, and then you just have to get to him. But it's certainly better to see him than when you're trying to get your hands on him. That's for sure.
All right, so we got a bunch of that going on. The real reason, Damian, we wanted to get you in here today, and we can talk about a bunch of these NFL topics, but I was just sitting back and enjoying you on Twitter yesterday, and Damian's a very good Twitter follow, by the way. As you were just getting into it with a lot of people over the comments of Josh Rosen, the UCLA quarterback, and Mike and I talked about it at length yesterday, as did almost everyone around the world of sports. The part that got most people's attention was basically his belief, to sum it all up, that football and school kind of don't mix, that this is a combination that is a bridge too far in some ways, and that it's like having two full-time jobs. For those who didn't get a chance to hear your thoughts, D. Wood, and to follow you on Twitter, what was your overriding thought?
Well, I think, when I was I saw the topic and then I saw some of the comments, what I saw was a lot of regurgitation of like platitudes by people. Oh, well, I did it, so you can do it. Those type of statements, and it's almost like they're just trying to dismiss what he's saying. And what I felt like he had merit. There was some merit behind what he was saying. I look at Josh Rosen. I look at a lot of collegiate athletes. One of the interesting things that I saw was, to his point, there's a lot of academic scandals that's been going on. And, I could point to Notre Dame had one, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason why, why those schools have had it, number one, they're fine institutions. You're talking about some of the best institutions in this country. But also because of the workload that these guys have to put in, with their the football commitment and being a student. So when you're a student athlete in this situation, it's hard not to just be a student going to these universities and trying to make do. But now you tack on the amount of hours that these guys have to make. Sometimes as you get up there, you get into the specific courses that you have to take in order to graduate whatever it is that you want to do. Man, it gets harder. It gets so much harder that what you see from a lot of programs, they try to funnel guys into like these general studies type deals. Why? Because they're just trying to keep them eligible. And to me, I think just to take it a step further, to me, this is about a labor situation to me, because I look at collegiate football as just a developmental league. It's a developmental league. Guys aren't being compensated for what the revenue that they're bringing in. People try to make the apples-to-apples comparison that, you're getting compensated in a scholarship. But to me, a scholarship does not compare to the billions of dollars that these collegiate football players are generating for the universities. And I think that if you ask a bunch of guys right now if they could concentrate solely on football or have to go to school in order to get to the NFL, I guarantee you guys would rather just concentrate solely on football if there was a developmental league for the National Football League.
Sure they would, but there isn't. I mean, we can try and make up anything we want. When you say you've heard people saying the whole thing, well, we did it. We did. Thousands of people have done this, and it's no harder today. It's still 20 hours. It was 20 hours when you and I played. It was 20 hours today. And quite honestly, I bring in other sports as well that I think work harder than football players who get 20 hours and are able to go to school and able to get it done. Some of the things he said, he's absolutely right. And they have been right for decades. He didn't break new ground here. Do guys get pushed through to easier classes? Absolutely. Are there academic scandals? Absolutely. Do some guys just want to go and stay eligible so they can be ready for the NFL or have a shot at the NFL? Absolutely. That's not breaking new ground. To me, to sit there and say it can't be done, to me, is a slap in the face to all of us who have done it. No, thousands that have done it.
I will say, this is what I will say on that. I think he could have chosen his words better in that regards. Right. But I think you can't dismiss what he was saying, because I think what he was saying, what he was alluding to, does have merit to it. Again, for me, I look at the picture of labor. That's to me is the biggest issue in this whole thing is labor. You hear the argument of, these guys are going to school for free. No, there's no this whole notion that guys are, going to school for free. The definition of free is there's no expectation of anything in return. Okay, there's no free here. Guys have to fulfill certain obligations. I just get tired of hearing that statement from people like, these guys just go for free, when it's not the case.
They do. There are obligations, and because they meet those obligations and don't have to pay tuition, for the 99% that don't make it to the NFL, they have no student loans to pay. There's value to that. If you want to compare it to the billions that they're making and they should get a bigger piece, I'm open to hearing all of that. But just as I don't like hearing that poo-pooed as much as it is, because there are 99% of the football players that are going to the real world, correct?
Absolutely.
And the first time they draw a paycheck in the real world, everybody else is, or mostly everybody else is going to repay a loan. Theirs isn't. So there is some value to that. It's just a matter of where you want to put the value as opposed to all the money the revenue sport like football makes for a school.
Yeah, and I've always said that, people say, you're getting an education. There's no guarantee that you're getting a job after you get out of school as well. Whereas these schools and the NCAA, they're generating billions of dollars now, right now. And it's like, if I asked you, would you rather have $1 million now or $5,000 a month for the next 17 years? I would anticipate you saying I'd rather have $1 million now, because of if I invested compound interest, I can make money. Right, exactly. Right. So to me, it's that's kind of the premise where I'm going as far as guys they're not getting paid. I think they should be compensated. For what they generate. For the NCAA.
I guess it's whatever angle we look at this. You're looking at this thing, and your angle is that there should be compensation. My angle was, offended's the wrong word, because so many of us did do this,
Yeah,
including
yeah.
you and I.
Right,
so
yeah.
to make the statement, and again, maybe that's where I'm caught up reading the headline, but he
Right.
did say it.
Yeah.
He said
And
you
that-
can't do them both.
Right.
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
You
and
can do them both.
I, like I said, I think the wording in what he
Yeah.
said wasn't correct.
Right.
But I'm not going to dismiss
Right.
what he said, because
agree
there
with
is merit to what he said.
I agree.
Damien Woody's here with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. The bottom line of it is this. He violated one of the cardinal rules, which is when you are a person who has a lot of opportunity, no one wants to hear about your problems. It doesn't mean they aren't legitimate.
Right.
But no one wants to hear about
Yeah, we call them like first world problems.
And
Right,
they
exactly.
are.
Yeah.
And they are, because if you make a lot of money, then people, you still have issues in life. Everyone has problems in life. Money does not solve all of the problems in your life. But people who don't have money don't want to hear about the problems that people who have money have. And it's much that way with a situation like this. All these people who are busy paying back their student loans right now, it doesn't mean Josh Rosen doesn't have a point. But they don't want to hear it. If I'm paying back $100,000 in student loans, I don't want to hear about how difficult Josh Rosen's life is. And even though I agree with what he's saying, I understand that perspective.
Doesn't mean we can't have a discussion.
No.
I mean, listen, everybody's going through something, but it doesn't mean that the discussion isn't worth having.
Correct. And that leads me to my next point, which is if the three of us were having this conversation, if the three of us were sitting together having a beer 10 years from now, and we talk about which sport is going to go through the biggest change in that 10-year period, I would suggest it's going to be college football. I think that we are going to see the amateurism model as we know it broken in college football. I think the Power 5 conferences at some point, and not that far off, are going to in some way break away from the NCAA and form their own thing. It doesn't make any sense not to. They can then create their own model, whatever it is they want it to be. And whether that will include some greater form of compensation than we have now, or at minimum relaxing the rules on the use of likeness, which is the part of it that really bothers me.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly how you compensate a player. Are you giving the lineman the same as you're giving the star quarterback? And are you giving the swimmer the same as you're giving the football player? Those are all complicated questions. But the notion that you would restrict these guys from taking advantage of their likeness and stuff like that has never sat well with me. They can make adjustments to that as they see fit. Do you agree with me, Mike, that that change will take place soon?
How popular is college football right
Very.
now?
Will that diminish it?
No, my point is they're going to go through the work of the old if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality.
I think they can make more money. I think those schools will be able to make more money and not share it with everybody else.
If you figure out a model to make more money, that's what's going to make this thing go. All of a sudden, all their thought process of, hey, what could we do for the kids isn't the driving force of this. This is all about money. But I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening as soon as you do because I just see it all working right now, and I see why are we going to change all of this?
Well, and I agree because I think that if the status quo keeps growing, the forces behind it are going to fight even more to keep everybody else at bay from messing with the golden goose there.
I agree.
Yeah, but I think there are 5 conferences that are supporting everything else. More money for just them, and not having to then support the. What percentage of college football programs lose money? It's an enormous number.
They're already giving money to their conferences.
Right.
That wouldn't change, would it? Or I guess they could change it to whatever they want. Revenue sharing, so to speak.
Right.
Right now, that's what happens.
Correct.
They share with the. Are you saying that would change? That they would break away, and now there's conferences broken away, and they wouldn't share? I mean,
they would share amongst themselves, and they would create their own television deals. I mean, they basically.
And you think they make more money?
Now.
You think they're going to make more money than the billions they're making right now?
Yeah, I do.
You're going to have to show me that model.
I mean, I can
going pretty well right now.
Only way I see it changing is just from a legal court perspective. Some of these student athletes, continue to challenge
if they're winning.
Exactly.
The EA lawsuit. Both my kids got checks. The likeness of that. And
so I think that's where the model changes. I think from that angle. But as far as the people in charge of the whole deal, no way they're going to change. Especially as the TV money continues to grow. They're not going to.
I agree, and we see what some of the guys at Northwestern tried to do with the union. That got destroyed. So I think it's going to be piecemeal to likenesses and how can a guy make a money? Do we ever get to a point where they're going to pay guys? There are different ways players can get money right now, but will we ever get to a universal way of where a guy can get a money? And if you do, is it going to be just football? Is it going to be football, basketball? Or is it going to be all scholarship athletes? So then, now the money really gets smaller, and then you're going to say, well, is it worth it now? Because of the amount of money it's going to be. But I agree with you, Damien. I don't, and disagree with you, Greeny. I don't think we're going to get this everything league, because I just don't think they think there's a need for it right now, because they're all swimming in cash.
I'll buy you both a beer 10 years from today when I'm right. All right, Mike, Damien,
as long as you're buying, we're good.
Let's go through a couple other things. You played with Tom Brady early in your career in New England. He's coming back this year at the age of 40 as the biggest star in the sport and still the guy on top of the mountain. He's going to try and do stuff that has never been done before. We've gone through the numbers a million times. No 40-year-old quarterback has ever started a Super Bowl. They've barely ever made the playoffs. They've never started 16 games in a season. If anyone can do it, Brady can do it. Do you think he can do it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I look at, number one, God's just in phenomenal shape. The way he takes care of himself, it's just rare. It's just rare to see an athlete take care of himself. Number two, you have the greatest, to me, in my opinion, the greatest head coach in NFL history in Bill Belichick. He's been in that system ever since he's been in the league. They've gotten better. As good as New England was last year, they got better this year.
Oh, yeah.
So to me, when you combine the fact that he's playing, you could have made the argument last year that he could have been the MVP of the league if he hadn't missed those 4 games.
I would have voted for him.
Yeah, he could have been the MVP of the league last year. The continuity that they have in that organization from the top all the way down, the players, the personnel that they have, there's really no reason outside of some type of freak injury to think that Tom Brady can't still play at a phenomenal level, not only this year, but in years to come.
I think 3 years. I think this year and 2 more years, I still think he could be one of the top quarterbacks.
It just never happened.
Well, that doesn't mean it can't happen, and we're seeing new things all the time, especially, Damien, when you played, and I played way before you, just the advancements in lifting, in eating, and supplements is so much better. And if you want to buy into it, how it can help you.
Look at just piggyback off of you. Look at like Adrian Peterson. Remember when Adrian Peterson tore his ACL, came back, and months. And the year that he had after he tore his ACL, nothing is impossible with today's advancement in medicine. And like I said, Tom Brady has all the advantages as far as coaching, organizationally. He has all the advantages. So to me, there's no roadblock that I can see of that would tell me that he can't do it.
The last thing I want to get into with you here, Diwa, and Damien Woody's in our studio. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. We will have Michael Irvin coming up later this hour on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Colin Kaepernick is still not on an NFL roster. Mm-hmm. If the NFL season begins, if Week 1 rolls around and he is not on an NFL roster, we all understand how polarizing a topic this is, and people have their very emotional views on this. What do you think? What reaction are you hearing from active players? Players who are in this, we're hearing more and more of them saying we need to stand up for Colin Kaepernick. We need to be there in a more visible or public way. Would you expect to see, and you may still have friends in the league you talk to, visible demonstrations of support for him? I'm not talking about what's being planned outside of Park Avenue now in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about players before games, whatever the case may be. What do you think players in the league will do if Kaepernick does not wind up on a team Week 1?
Let me back up one second before I answer that. I honestly feel kind of disappointed that more players haven't spoken up about this issue. And to me, thinking forward, it's part of the reason why when the Players Association and the NFL negotiate the next CBA, I expect the NFL to win again. Mm-hmm. Because the one thing that the players, to me, don't have is solidarity. Right. Here's a guy that, Super Bowl, a guy who was one play away from winning Super Bowl, not even 30 years old, is not even on a roster. Think about that. A guy who's, everyone wants to say that Colin Kaepernick stinks, this or that. Last week I talked about on First Take that this is the same guy who, his QBR was better than Ryan Tannehill, better than Cam Newton, better than Eli Manning. And I'm not saying he's Cam Newton or Eli Manning, but the point I was making was the guy can still play football. He's in the prime of his career, and he's now on the roster. to me, that's a travesty. He should be on a roster. Now, as far as the Miami situation, I can understand what Miami did as far as Jay Cutler. Do I have questions about it? Yes, but I can understand with the coach-player relationship. But the simple fact that Colin Kaepernick is not on the NFL roster, being the age that he's at, some of the other quarterbacks that's in the National Football League, again, I think it's a travesty.
It's indisputable that this is why it's happening.
Yeah.
That's not. I don't even. That's up for
no
debate
doubt about
anymore.
it. We'll see. We'll see if an injury happens somewhere where he can end up on a team. I want to finish with this. Go back to your rookie year. All these rookies played in their first game last night, the first preseason game. Now you did it. You were the 17th pick overall, first round. I was a 10th round, 255th pick. So we were coming at it from two different ways, I think. But still. That first preseason game, that first time you played in the NFL, what was that like?
My first thought was, dude, make sure the shotgun snap go back.
Yeah.
anyone who knows me, who's seen me play, always, everyone knows that I had an issue with shotgun snaps.
Yeah, because they rotated you to guard.
Absolutely. If you ask Tim Hasselbeck, I give Tim Hasselbeck a lot of credit because that dude was athletic playing behind me at BC. Because catching some of my snaps back there. But listen, we had signed Drew Bledsoe to a $100 million deal. And I remember, at the time, my coach was Pete Carroll my first year. And he's like, patted me on the shoulder. He said, see that guy right there? Okay, that's the $100 million quarterback. Don't get that guy hurt, okay? Don't get him hurt. So the first thing I'm thinking is like, man, just get the shotgun snap back there so Drew doesn't have to bend down and get killed in the pocket. So, yeah, my heart was like in my throat the first
it's amazing the things that go through your mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
People always think the quarterback's got to get his first pass of the game out of the way. You never think about the center has to get that first snap.
Listen, every play starts with a quarterback-center exchange.
Yep, does.
He's Damian Woody. You see him all over the place, and it's always a delight. And I like the clean-shaven look. I do. It's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, everyone. My kids they're scared. They say I look like I have too much of a baby face. So
you do a little bit.
Yeah,
You're a big man, and you do have a very youthful. But maybe that's kind of a nice thing. It gives you a more youthful appearance.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit more of a salt and pepper now. They've brought that on, so to kind of turn back the clock a little bit, it's kind of a good thing. They brought it on. Yeah.
The best of Mike and Mike.
All right, we are Mike and Mike. We got a lot of good stuff working here. It really feels like football all of a sudden, and there are a bunch of different things to get into with our friend from the NFL Network, our former colleague, the Hall of Famer Michael Irvin, is back with us on Mike and Mike. Good morning, Michael Irvin.
What's up, guys, with that great name, Mike and Mike, and Mike and Mike. I like this right here.
Works out well.
It works out perfectly every time.
That works out.
Let's start with your weekend in Canton. Obviously, for all of you Hall of Famers, it is always a big deal to go back and welcome the new inductees. But to have the guy that you played your basically your entire career for there in Dallas, Jerry Jones, going in this weekend, what was that like for you?
It was incredible. It really was, guys. And it just it was such a thrill to have him there. Because I remember when I walked in, my wife and I walked in his office, over at the complex, and we talked to Marilyn. We went in, and Jerry's looking at me like, "Is there anything wrong? What happened?" Almost like, "What you do? What have you done now, Mike?" I said, "No, boss. No, listen. We came to ask you to present us. We came to ask you to present us at the Hall of Fame." And I mean, he just started crying like, he was like, "Man, this is the greatest day of my life, Michael. That moment of me being up there presenting you." And then he called his wife. We were all just crying in that room. And then I think about it like this. Multiply that by 20, and that's what it meant for him. And for me to watch it was incredible. I was here when he bought the Cowboys, and he got rid of the God and Tom Landry, and everybody wanted to crucify him. To go from that to being glorified on that day was just an incredible feeling. It really was. And to watch his journey was just incredible.
And then to see him and Jimmy together in the way they were. For those who didn't see it, Jimmy Johnson is there to induct Jason Taylor, and they're looked, at least from the outside, to be like really friendly exchanges and all of that. I heard that you guys were hanging out a little bit. What did you see there in sort of a thawing of that relationship between Jerry and Jimmy?
Yeah, you're right, Mike. It was so great to see. First of all, first I went to Jason Taylor and told him thank you for getting Jimmy out of the Keys. Jimmy doesn't come out of the Keys. He doesn't show up for anything. He just stays in the Key West, Florida. So he got him out, man, and it was just great. The whole weekend, Jimmy and Jerry were back to being what they were, what I feel they were in college. You know what I mean? They were back to really putting everything aside and getting back to being friends again and really enjoying the moment. So it made it so much more enjoyable to see it at that weekend.
For those, there's so few of you that make it to the Hall of Fame, and when you're in that club, is it before that weekend, is it that weekend, or was it after for you and maybe some of the other guys? I know it's different. When it really hit you that you were a Hall of Famer, because that weekend is such a special weekend. Is it then, or how did that work for you?
I think it's different for everybody, like you said, Green. You know what I mean? For me, with all the peaks and valleys I've had in life, as soon as they called my name, joy rushed my body. Like, oh, my God, I actually got here. I made it, And then some of the guys will tell you, like I heard Jason Taylor or Kurt talk about the moment they had to stand on that podium, it's when it hit them. But I always tell people, like I tell T.O., I said, T.O., just calm down, man. Just chill out. I promise you, rather your first ballot, if it takes 3 years, if it takes 5 years, I promise you, when you get that call, joy is going to hit your body like no other. And it's not about fighting them. It's about fighting for that bus that's in that hall, and your grandkids and your great-great-grands, when they see it, they'll get a certain pride about who they are.
But it's going to be interesting next year. Mike and Michael Irvin, we mentioned that there has not been a year in which two wide receivers went into the Hall of Fame together since 1983. So Randy Moss becomes eligible next year. Terrell Owens is waiting, and both Mike and I think it's insane that he hasn't gotten in. So what do you think? Is there any chance they both get in? Do you think that Moss leapfrogs T.O. in the order? How do you expect that to play out?
Well, all three Mike think it's insane that T.O. is not in. Yeah. It's just what the reality is, man. It really is. When you look at what the numbers are and everything and what should be considered for him, for you to be in the Hall. And I certainly hope it doesn't work out that way. I mean, I think that would be a great class, because both of those guys dominated that era at wide receiver. It would be a great class to have T.O. and Randy Moss go in at the same time. And I do think that boy, that'd be hard. That'd be hard even for me to be there and watch Randy, first of all, become the first ballot Hall of Famer. And T.O. didn't get a chance to be that. And then now, didn't watch Randy Moss. And Randy's a good friend and a great friend of mine. I love him, too, to go in without T.O. That'll be very difficult. So I'm hoping and praying it doesn't happen that way and that these guys see fit. Because Ray Lewis is going in. Yep. Ray will be in. I've already looked at it and tried to say, okay, who do I know going in? I know definitely Ray Lewis, probably even Hutch, Randy Moss, and hopefully T.O.'s in that class.
Yeah, Steve Hutchinson, when you say Hutch, great guard through his years in the league. And speaking of
Hutch was bad,
absolutely was. Without question, he was. Speaking of a couple of wide receivers that are dominating their era, Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr. fit into that. Throw Julio Jones in there, obviously, as well. But Antonio and Odell has said they basically motivate one another to play better. Were you like that? Did you have a contemporary while you were playing that kind of you guys, even though you never played against each other physically on the field, but another wide receiver in your time that motivated you?
No, the only guy motivated me was Jesus and Cleats, and that's Jerry Rice, and we did not share anything, no film. I heard about them sharing practice films and all this stuff. It was like secret combat. I tried to find out what was Jerry's workout, so I could go and do it. I figured if I could do Jerry's workout in the morning and do Darryl Green's workout in the afternoon and then do my workout in the evening, why shouldn't I beat them? I should beat them. That's the way I felt like it. You know what I mean? So I didn't get into sharing anything. I'm telling you, one of the greatest moments in my life, in my whole entire life, is right up there with the birth of my kids. Well, when I went in my Super Bowl, my Pro Bowl, and Jerry Rice came behind me, and I just won Receiver of the Year, and he said, "Hey, Herb." I said, "What is that Jerry Rice calling my name?" I said, "Yeah, make him say it again. Make him call you again." "Hey, Herb." I said, "Oh, what's up, man?" And he said, "Hey, congratulations. I chased you all year, and I couldn't catch you, but I'll get you next year." Oh, man, that was it, man. That was it. God could have taken me right out of time into eternity right there. It would have been the greatest thing in the world. I hadn't lived the life I needed to live. So, no, I competed against Jerry Rice, you know, and watched everything he did, but I didn't have that kind of a friendship like what I read that Odell and Antonio Brown does.
It's always great to catch up, Michael. Thanks a million, as always. Enjoy the rest of the summer. We'll see you when the season gets started.
Guys, I'm ready for that season to get started. You're right. That young man last night looked great. You guys tell me this now. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Now we look at Trubisky and we're looking at Deshaun Watson. Why do we get into that process of combines and all of that and start letting people jump ball people when you knew Deshaun Watson had been playing better than Trubisky? Now, Trubisky will come along, hopefully, but you knew. And what did Chicago do? I don't know. I can't figure that stuff out sometimes.
Michael, listen, I completely agree with you. I said Deshaun should have been the first quarterback taken. It amazes me that these guys are done playing either in December or January, and that's the last time they're in pads. They do nothing in pads from that point on, and how anything could change after that blows my mind. It really, really does.
Blows my mind, and they do it every year.
Yep.
They do it every year. It's almost like, get rid of your scouting department. They don't do it. I don't. You know what I'm saying? Just look at the film. Don't let track shoes and shorts override what you saw on the football field. Don't do it. That's all I say, guys.